So, Hamish, let's talk a little bit about stress in construction. Construction, the industry itself is actually viewed as a work environment that's pretty tough, pretty stressful. Um, what are some of your experiences working in the industry? Is it stressful? How do you manage your stress? Stressors.
I think it's definitely stressful a lot of the time. The levels of that change. Sometimes it's just another day and you're ticking boxes and clearing goals, but other days you wonder why it is as tough as it is.
Yeah.
Um, there's a lot of different reasons for that, but I guess it started pretty early for me, naive. I think I moved to Christchurch when I was about 21, 22, and I
Yeah.
went to um, work safe, site safe, like accreditation course, and I was naive going in there thinking, "Oh, I better not fail," that sort of thing. But there was an older fella there that was a truck driver, and I don't know what brought it up, but he's told us a story about how he's the happiest he's ever been because he was a project manager and he'd had enough, and now he's a truck driver and really enjoyed it. And I remember
Cool.
sitting back and thinking at that time, "Oh, well, I won't be like that. I'm tougher than that."
Yeah.
And
Well, most men do think that in the construction industry, don't they?
yeah, and you have to have a thick skin, and not because people are ruthless, just because you're dealing with big dollars, you're dealing with big risk, you're dealing with a lot of stakeholders. So naturally, there is a lot of accountability, there is a lot of expectations. You have to be comfortable with that,
Mm-hmm.
and you have to execute as well.
Mm-hmm.
But you also have to own your mistakes and make sure you only make them once. If you're doing that, then typically you'll go pretty well. Um, some people just need a bit of extra support, I think, and a bit of context around why they're doing it and what they're doing it for. Because in between 10, 11 years of being in the construction industry, I've seen a lot of people, good people with that have either been successful or had a lot of potential be lost to the industry. And I think as a whole across the country, we're probably starting to see the effect of those people moving on now. Talent is spread pretty thin, and there's a lot of competition out there.
Or
And
they fucked off to Australia.
yeah, 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 and especially like the bigger guys are probably taking a lot of the big workload these days, and everyone's turning into subcontractors. So
What do you mean by that?
the projects that are coming out there, they're run by your big three or four.
Downers, Fletchers. Yep.
Yeah, those sorts of people. And I say that like if you're a young fella or lady trying to go out on your own, it's very difficult because a lot of it's all wrapped up, but in government contracts, or they're big enough that you couldn't go for them, and then you end up being a subby and a bit of a race to the bottom on rates, which tying it back to that stress in construction, you're not winning things on 15, 20% rates, you're winning them on 3, 4, 5% rates. Um,
See, that's an interesting point that you brought up, right?
mm,
Do you think that the procurement model that we currently employ in New Zealand adds to the stress levels downstream?
100%. I don't think there's any other way. And sometimes I sit there, I don't think it's possible as simply as this. But imagine if you could win a tender on innovation rather than price.
Well, that would be amazing, though, wouldn't it?
Yeah, price
But
is obviously always going to be important, but
yeah,
there's always you must start here or you must complete it this way or X, Y, and Z. If you put in something different, it's not often looked at that strongly.
but look at it from the other side of the fence, right? So price, you can measure, you can manage. Yep.
Mm.
Innovation, how do you measure and manage that?
That's the price is always going to be an important part to it, and
100%.
you tie it back to profit first people as well.
Yep.
It's there to stay. It ain't going anywhere. Um,
But I think the problem we're discussing here is the amount of weightage given to the lowest price bid is way too significant compared to all the other factors looked
yeah,
at when you're actually going to procure.
and to be honest, you throw 10 contractors beside each other, you could probably throw a blanket on the over them in terms of skills,
Yep.
like the service that we give clients or the level quality of workmanship that people give clients. If you put 10 beside each other, it'll be pretty similar. It's not that different. So then the only thing you're competing on is price. Giving a bit more flexibility on how people can deliver things while keeping price, especially in the government works, you price has to be important. Um, giving a bit of flexibility, I think, would actually make things a bit cheaper. You'd start thinking a bit outside the box. It's not going to happen every project,
Yeah.
but you start thinking how you can deliver things differently. You might actually start cutting down some costs. Mm.
Or not pricing in so much risk.
Yeah, yeah, because you have to. Yeah,
Yeah. So this yeah, it's an interesting topic, isn't it?
yeah,
We had a panel discussion where we actually dove into that quite deep on the New Zealand procurement model and how it actually impacts stress levels and how it impacts work downstream,
mm.
which is it's quite significant and adds a
Well, especially
lot
when
of
you're on
stress.
like a $15-20 million plus contract, you can't like it's hard to go out and price every single sub at the time of tender. So you're going backwards a wee bit, trying to get subs involved on a you needed the rate to work,
Yeah.
or else it's not going to work for you.
Yeah. Yeah.
So you just keep going until you find someone that'll work, and that poor person gets left carrying the can a wee bit.
For sure. And I had Matt Stanford from Pipeline and Civil. I don't know if you know who he is.
No, I
Those
don't
guys.
think so.
He's a procurement manager there now.
Mm,
He's doing great things. A lot of respect for him.
yeah,
So I asked him, how does he manage these contracts and how does he manage the stress flowing downstream? He just goes, I tag the shit out of it, bro.
yeah, and I think it
What
was
do you
actually
do?
one of your podcasts where it's like a lot of prices are actually hard to compare because they're not apples for apples. One
Yeah.
person will price in dewatering with a lot of risk. The other person will tag out of dewatering completely, and that could be $1 million difference on some projects.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, in terms of how we manage it, it's sort of every job on its merits. Lining up what is the risk, what could go wrong, and what's the worst case scenario. You don't give it right every time, but as long as you know what the risks are, then you can only do your best almost.
Yeah, 100%, man. Now there must be better ways of procuring work
Mm.
and reducing that stress downstream. Right?
Actually,
100%
Nelson
has to
City
be.
Council, a shout out to them a wee bit. They're leading the way on it. I think since COVID, they've introduced a direct procurement model.
Oh, yeah.
So they start off with the Nelson City Council's budget and sort of work backwards from there. Early ECI with the contractor. It's all open book, so everyone knows what's happening, and it helps the local workload by dicing it out into who's good at what and who's going to give the best product for what. So I think locally that's made a huge difference. It's obviously not possible for large contracts,
Yeah.
but for those $1 to $2 million projects, you can get in, get out, plan them, and time them for school holidays, all that sort of planning, and it's made a huge difference down there. It's been cool.
What you're saying is Auckland Council could learn from Nelson
I
City
don't know
Council?
too much about how it works up here,
Oh,
but
come on, mate. Big black smoke
um,
and all of that.
I don't know any other council doing that,
Oh, yeah.
and
Interesting.
it's cool. I'm sure there is, but
Yeah. Yeah.
it's cool how it works.
Maybe the other council should look at Nelson Council to see what they're doing differently.
Yeah,
That'd be a good comparison.
they're very good at looking after local contractors, and
Yes. That's good to hear.
yeah, it's
You don't hear that every day.
nah, and like Schick's been in Nelson coming up for 4 and a bit years, and I knew that coming in, so I stuck in my lane, let them do their thing, and started getting involved with the industry and let me in rather than going all out and pissing everybody off. So
Fair
that sort
enough.
of culture in the civil industry in Nelson is cool to be part of.
Yeah, that's awesome, man.
Mm,
Reducing the stress levels downstream. That's
mm,
no, pretty cool.
mm.
Awesome.